Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. Why is it so easy for smart, ambitious people to stay stuck in patterns that continue to hold them back? You know, sometimes we recognize these patterns, sometimes we can't. But have you ever felt like you want to change, feeling the strong need to make something happen because you know that life should be better, but you just don't know what or how to even begin? You just know that you're struggling inside and you need to do something. Well, today, my guest is Teresa Kaplan, psychotherapist turned transformational teacher, healer, and mentor. She is passionate about helping her clients create positive change from the inside out, allowing them to shift long-held patterns and issues that keep them stuck so they can create deep change in a real way that is authentic to their calling. Through her work with hundreds of clients, Teresa has gained a deep understanding of the hidden ways we accidentally sabotage ourselves and our life. And it's her mission to help others to unlock their full potential by clearing the mental obstacles standing in the way. Teresa, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, you know, the work that you do is really fascinating to me because it seems that it's something that applies to, almost everyone, but so many people don't even realize that that it's going on. So I'd like to start out by asking you to really help us understand what patterns are and why we fall into them.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right that most of the time we have so much more going on than we realize. And that's a part of why we end up getting frustrated or staying stuck. And we really have patterns, we can talk about patterns in terms of mental patterns where we ruminate on the same thoughts throughout the day without even realizing it. We have emotional patterns, which is really kind of typical triggers that each of us have that occur in our relationships and in other places. And then, of course, we have behavioral and situational patterns where, despite our best intentions, we maybe continuously find ourselves in the same situation or attracting the same kind of partner that doesn't meet our needs. There's really, pretty much our whole life is patterns when you think about it.
And I know that, some of these we're conscious of, some of them we're not conscious of, but the ones that really fascinate me are the ones that we're conscious of. And I guess an example I would think of is say eating unhealthily, right?
Yes.
How many times we sit and, continue to put the cookies in our mouth and boy, I really shouldn't be doing this. I really shouldn't be doing this. But then we keep doing it. It's almost, like if we just kept hitting ourselves on the head with a hammer, ow, 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 ow. Why can't we stop that when we are aware of it?
Exactly. This is a great example because it's such a common one, right? So we are only in touch with our conscious self, which is a very, very small part of us. And almost all of our behavior and everything that's happening is run by our unconscious, subconscious part of us. So we know that we don't want to be putting that cookie in our mouth. We know we have all the information on a practical level that it's, we don't feel well when we eat it. It's not healthy for our body. But there is something deeper going on that's outside of our awareness that's creating kind of the impulse to do it anyways. And that part is the deeper part that actually determines what happens.
And that's probably the part that goes so much deeper than just you know, having a strong talk with yourself, right?
Exactly.
That I really need to stop this. And when you talked about how the behavioral and the emotional, um, and physical patterns, mental patterns, I'm sure some of those probably tie into each other, and it could make each other worse, I guess, as
Well,
we do that, right?
exactly. So, what I talk about is that we can get into negative spirals and positive spirals. And so, what often happens is that because we can't control what we don't know, right, which is outside of our awareness, we're eating the cookie anyways. And then what happens, we feel bad about ourselves because we're not able to stop ourselves. And we start a negative spiral, which kind of continuously feeds on itself. Um, and then we're triggered by the emotions of feeling bad and feeling like a failure and all of that stuff. And what people don't realize is that they're not able to do it, not because of some kind of flaw, not because there's something wrong with them, but because there's just more going on, and they don't know what has been stored inside in their emotions, their fears, their thoughts, their limiting beliefs, which is all already there from childhood and from experiences. And they just aren't able to access that part. So then they aren't able to actually solve the problem.
Yeah, and I know that you talk about that. You talk about even from childhood that some of these patterns um, are developed at a very young age and stay with us. And I imagine that a lot of people just chalk that up. Well, that's just who I am. These are just the cards that I was dealt, right?
Exactly.
And so, what would you say to people that have that mindset? And even though consciously they know, just like I talked at the top of the show, they know that something needs to change. They know that that life should be better. um, what prevents them from seeking out uh, some help to actually make that happen?
Well, so here's what I want to people to know is that because a lot of times people do seek out help, but they make some progress, but they don't completely clear the issue, right? So we have, it starts early in life and even before we're born. So, we have all the traumas that our parents and ancestors have had that they haven't processed actually gets passed down. All the beliefs and all the fears gets passed down in our nervous system and in our bodies. And then even as we're developing, being born is a bit of a trauma in and of itself. And so we're accruing all of these things. And what people, like, let's say they go to therapy or they read books and they're trying to help themselves, but that's only one layer that they're able to get to. So people can make some progress, but then they still feel like they can't really get to the place they really want to be, because they get to a point where things still feel stuck and they don't know how to get there. So what I want people to know is that it's absolutely possible to genuinely, truly heal on a fully complete level these patterns and stuck behaviors, even if it feels like you've had it your whole life, even if your family of origin passed it down. And these days in the trauma field, we know that there's so many understanding that there's neuroplasticity where we can actually change our brain and our mind. And we understand where trauma is stored on a much better level. So we know that we can't get to it just with our mental self. It's stored in the body and it's stored in the energy field. And there are tools these days, a lot of tools coming out that are kind of more alternative healing tools that really are effective for getting you to where you want to be.
Yeah, and that's something that was really surprising to me. And as I looked into it, I thought, wow, how this I always thought of this as a mental thing, strictly, and that there is a big physiological aspect to it, like you said, like the neuroplasticity, that it's something that's physically
Yeah.
Embedded. And so when you talk about the tools that would help them, that would help to relieve this, what are those tools? What does that look like? Is it something that is it like exercise equipment when you're going to people to go buy their treadmills and things like that? What is it that you can do that would help with that side of it?
Yeah, well, so that's a great question. And basically, what happens is that we have these moments in childhood where we, let's say, have what we call a small T trauma or a big T trauma, something that feels life-threatening, or something that's just small where you felt like humiliated in class, or any of these situations. And in those moments, the nervous system goes into survival mode. And so in that moment, when the nervous system goes into survival mode, it's really beneficial because it allows us to still, cope with the situation, not run out screaming from the classroom, right? But what happens then is that we store the experience in our body and in these different kind of pockets of our energy. So the tools, we do that, and that's great, and it's like beautiful the way that the human body is designed and that our energy field is designed in order to protect us in those moments. But later on, that's still stuck in there, and that's what plays out in our adult life in a way that doesn't serve us. It looks like self-sabotage. It's just a stuck pattern. So the tools need to address that level of the body and the energy field, and the places where the root cause lives. So sometimes that can, exercise actually is a great way to do that. But sometimes that, it can look like a lot of different things. So it can look like body work. There's a lot of different, not just massage, but people do body work that allows kind of release of the stored up, stuck energy that's in your body. There's, a lot of what I call energy healing modalities these days. And the ones that I use are, really effective at getting to that. And that's because it's not even the conscious mind that we're doing. Sometimes it is, but it's really deeper in the place in the body and the energy field that where the trauma is stuck. So in the case of the kind of work, the kind of tools that I'm talking about, what I often use is called energy editing. And in that, let's say that someone is, wanting to clear their impulse to eat the cookie. Well, we can address, that moment of what's happening eating the cookie, as well as whatever the deeper root is, which is usually some kind of, emotional need issue that has gotten stuck. So then we help them to understand what is actually going on in that moment. I feel, anxious or overwhelmed, let's say. So then we clear the emotion of anxiety, or we clear the fear of being overwhelmed. We can actually clear those things from the whole system. And then they don't have to work hard to try to not eat the cookie because the impulse is no longer there. So what the tools look like, it depends on what kind of tools you use. But in the energy world, it's literally like a 4-minute, you put your hands in a certain position on your body and you feel that feeling, you repeat the phrase, and it literally disappears permanently within 4 minutes.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's just remarkable how the mind works and what the mind's capable of when we can tap into that. You mentioned a few things that made me think how these anxiety or these fears that are stored in our subconscious. And I know two big ones that if we move away from the cookie, I think that probably is applicable to just about everyone. Are the fears? One, the fear of failure, but then maybe the not so intuitive, the fear of success. And and I imagine that those are probably closely related, but I think it's the fear of success one is the one that a lot of people have a hard time getting their head wrapped around. Can you kind of talk about those
Yes.
Because I think it's something that probably everyone has experienced.
So this is one of my favorites because we call them fear pairs. So we all have fear pairs stored in our subconscious that we're not aware of. And most of the time we're only aware of the thing that we want, right? Like I really want success. But if we really want success and it's not happening, then almost always it means that there's some other part of us inside that is feeling resistant to success, that has fear of success. And I've found that the more charge someone has around wanting something, almost always the more resistant the other part of them is, and they can feel that. So they're having to work extra hard. And the reason why we have these pairs and the resistance is really simple. It goes back to a protective coping mechanism that's been developed in childhood or earlier or passed down. And so there's all these things in our kind of confusion in our subconscious and our psyche around what it looks like to have fear of success and all the kind of quote repercussions that we're not even aware of at all. We just know we just want to be successful, but we don't know that we believe it's all these beliefs and thoughts around, if I'm successful, then what's going to happen? So what's going to happen, people, then I'm more susceptible to having people, be jealous of me, or it almost always comes back to like losing people or being judged or criticized or going beyond your family of origin in kind of that glass ceiling of success that they had. There's so many reasons why we have it, but most of us have so many, the fear pair of fear of success and fear of failure is like the really common one, but there's hundreds of them that we have. And so anytime if you notice yourself wanting something, but it's not coming easily, then it's a good idea to stop and think about, is there any part of me that's uncomfortable with actually getting to attain this? And sometimes it's just simply that it hasn't been a part of our reality. And so we just don't know how to receive it. We don't know how to embody it because we don't have the wiring for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would probably recognize that as the what if-itis, Yeah, but what if? But what if? But what if?
Yeah.
This happens. Now I know that you work with people on personal growth, but you also do a pretty good amount of working, I guess, using this for business mentoring. And I can imagine, on a macro level, we think about that fear of success and understanding that. But I think on a micro level, one of the an example that I've seen of that is, say, for people that sales, right, or they're selling their service, or they're selling themselves, or they're selling their product, and they think their fears of rejection. What if they say no? What if they say no? But in reality, it's they're afraid. Well, what if they say yes?
Yes.
Then I've got to perform. Then I've got to do something. Do you see that as being maybe one of those that's unrecognized?
I'm telling you, it is everything. We are genuinely afraid of being one, it's uncomfortable to feel that powerful. So people are afraid of being that easily successful because it's a lot of responsibility to have that level of power that we actually do have. And just like you said, then it's like, oh, then I have to actually, do the work, or then I have to expand my nervous system to hold all of this success. And so it's really, I mean, I would say that's the most common block that people have in this realm is, allowing themselves to know that it's safe to have that level of power and be able to move in the world in the way they want with such ease. We also, in our society, we tend to not believe that things can be easy because we overcomplicate. And so it's a little bit of a paradigm shift to just allow things to be that easy.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think an example, I was talking to someone that's selling websites, I think, and they quote this high price that my stuff is valuable and this is what I want to do. And they quoted it to someone, and their prospect said, okay, when can we start? And then all of a sudden they start getting into this defensive mode. Whoa, don't pressure me,
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I will also say that that we have lots of different parts of us. So we have the part of us that's confident, that knows, what we do is worthy. And then we have these pockets of feeling, a part of us, some internalized failure or internalized, parts of us that aren't totally sure. And so those parts pop up when things start getting really good.
This term beyond therapy, because I think a lot of people may think, well, this sounds like, okay, well, I would see someone, and you come from that background, right?
Yeah.
From that.
Yep.
And what does that mean? Be beyond therapy. That's something that would be more, because I know that some people think, oh boy, here we go. I go sit on the couch and to tell about my childhood, or maybe they'll say there's a pill for that or something.
Yes.
So kind of go deeper into what that means to you, that beyond therapy.
Okay, so that came to me not that long ago, and for like 15, 20 years, I was a more traditional psychotherapist in private practice doing one-on-one work. My degree was never traditional. My degree is transpersonal psychology, which just acknowledges the whole person, mind, body, spirit. It's very non-pathologizing. And so beyond therapy has many different meanings to me. One of them is that we go beyond the traditional therapy paradigm that kind of pathologizes people and doesn't quite understand what's going on a whole systems level. And then beyond therapy also for me personally means beyond talk therapy, one-on-one, where we can, it can be, I mean, I love therapy. It's amazing. And there's a particular time and place for it. And at some point we want to go beyond therapy into these more alternative healing modalities that can very quickly and effectively get to the root cause. So we don't have to sit for years on the couch. Right. And moving out of the last part of beyond therapy, what it means to me is also helping therapists and healers to move out of these certain paradigms and move into expanding their practice, expanding their healing modalities, as well as their business, in going from one-on-one into creating group programs and doing larger healing. I moved out of one-on-one private practice into doing programs because I found it's even more effective and transformational when we have many people at once and we're doing these more alternative healing modalities.
I think probably everyone knows someone that we think, boy, they're their own worst enemy, right? They seem to always be stepping on their own foot, getting in their own way. And I think if we don't know someone like that, then you may be that person, right? What is it that if someone's thinking, in that very kind of vague sense of, something needs to change. I know things that should be better. You know, how would somebody kind of really take a good look at themselves and understand that they are kind of the root, that they are self-sabotaging themselves, that they are recognize that is their problem. And I think that's probably goes a long way, that once they recognize that, then they know what they're seeking help for.
Exactly. So oftentimes what's happening is that it's very easy to judge either when we see people who are like that or when we are like that. And so the first step is to take out that layer of judgment and understand that it's simply wiring. It's simply stuck things in the nervous system. It's not about, I used to tell my clients, I don't use the word self-sabotage. I do now just because people get it. But when we think of self-sabotage, we go back into that negative spiral of feeling bad about ourselves and then ingraining the stuckness more. So the first step is to really give some self-compassion or compassion to the person we're aware of that does that. And so we can look at self-sabotage totally differently, where it's not that we're, quote, irresponsible or trying to cause problems or a drama queen. It's not that at all. It's simply that there is old stuck trauma in there that is, again, kind of running the show. So that's the first thing we need to get out of that. And then once out of that, we want to be able to neutrally be truthful with ourselves, right? We want to neutrally accept the way that the body and the wiring works, which is that it's never something on the outside. We can make excuses forever and go into denial and blame and all that. But if we're in these circumstances, if we're not, making the life that we're wanting to make, we do want to take responsibility for that only in an empowering way, because it is empowering once you accept, hey, this is up to me. Then we know we have like full empowerment to actually change it and create the life we want and create the habits and, all the things we want. So once we do that, then we can actually be open and open up to the potential and the possibilities we have by, then taking the steps to figure out how the heck to work on it, because we can't do it by ourselves, because we can't reach that root cause subconscious by ourselves, but we can seek help in ways that will really get us there.
So far when we talk about patterns and these, patterns that we're stuck in, negative patterns. But on the inverse, what you do, it sounds like it's not just helping people get unstuck and break free of negative patterns, but it also sounds like there's the opportunity that you can create and get stuck into positive patterns. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. That is the entire goal. So that is really kind of the orientation. So the orientation is, hey, let's give you permission to create what you want. Let's dream, let's vision, let's really open up to that potential. And then what we do is we clear, we have the vision and we know where that is. And then we have, okay, here's where you are. So like the desire, the end goal, and then we just clear the stuff that's in between, in the way. So, a lot of times it is focus on clearing out the traumas, but really, what's the use of that if we don't have the vision and working towards, this is what I want. So once we're always, that's where our energy and intention lies. And oftentimes just having our energy and intention there starts to create really nice, easy, positive momentum towards what you want and creating it, because our intention, our body and our subconscious hears every single thought we have. It hears every single, thing we say. And so when we start making those positive intentions for ourselves, we start building a new relationship to those parts of us. And we can, the modalities I use, we clear out the hard stuff, like I said, the fears and the thoughts and everything. But there's also modalities like we can actually install new positive beliefs in our system. So we clear out the negative one and then we install the positive one. And that starts to really change our wiring like really fast.
Well, to me, that's the most exciting part about what you're doing, because, even when people think about therapy, whether I'm going to change my bad behaviors, to get rid of my bad behaviors, but your ability and your work and tapping into that same capacity of the brain to turn it around and create those positive patterns, to me, is like I said, the most exciting part about that. And I don't want to, skate over that side of it. So yeah. What is that when you're working with someone? And I know, probably the first task is to identify those negatives, right? And to alleviate that. But when it comes time to start working on those positives, how does that how does that work?
Yeah, it's actually the opposite. So the first task is to identify, what do you want? Right.
Okay.
So we start with the vision of what do you want? So it can be on a personal level. And a lot of my clients simply want to feel, peaceful in their relationship, or, these different places. They want to feel free. They want to feel joy again. They want to feel peaceful. And some of the healers, therapists, they want to feel like they can totally be themselves and expand in ways that feel fun without burning themselves out, without being, kind of held down by the way they have been working. So we are motivated to do the hard work by knowing what we want. And when what we focus on is what grows. So we want to always infuse everything we do with the clearing with the intention of where we are headed, where are we going? Because oftentimes just our energy system knowing, hey, this is what I'm working towards. This is where I get to be. This is my vision of my expanded higher potential. Well, things just start to drop off. Energy just starts to clear just through that process, especially when you're in a program and it's set up for that. So it's the positive creation vision is just as important, if not even more, because once we know that, then the psyche's like, oh, well, let me put down this old baggage because this part doesn't fit with where I'm going, and it starts all working together in an integrated way to get us there.
You use the term clearing a lot, clearing out. And it made me think of this old saying about perfection. Perfection isn't when there's nothing more to add. It's when there's nothing left to take away. Right? And so it sounds like when people go on this journey or take this task, that it's not necessarily about adding new things to do, adding new things. It's about, look, lose that, stop yep. that process, let's, because I think that's where a lot of overwhelm comes from. Is that where, rather than, okay, now do this, it's like, stop doing this and stop doing that.
Well, I'm laughing because literally in my session this week, I talked exactly about what you're saying, which is about perfection and about how we are actually all perfect beings, and how it's not about having to be more or do more. It's about releasing what's in the way of us being fully ourselves. And so to me, that is such a big chunk of the clearing. The work is clearing out the things that are in the way, because when we are able to access the fullness in our heart, we feel abundant, we are generous and loving and self-loving and compassionate, and we are who we are in our full essence. And when we have had traumas or passed down, shame or these different things, then our on an energetic level, our heart is shut down in different places. And so we appear as if, we're not as generous or not as, self-compassionate and all these things. But in my experience, we are all that. It's just that there's things that are clogging it, like fears and survival scarcity stuff and, limiting beliefs and all that. So it is true what you're saying about it's really about releasing it, dissolving the energy resistance that we have built up from just, our coping mechanisms that then are now, unfortunately, in the way of us being free to be ourself.
Well, I think there's probably a lot of people that would be listening to this thinking, okay, I think I'm getting it now. I think Teresa might be onto something.
Mm-hmm.
So what does let's say someone wants to get involved with what you're doing, because I think, what you're doing is just fascinating and just, tremendous in your ability to explain, not just, what people should do it and how they should do it, but why they should be doing it. What does it look like? What are different ways that people can work with you? Is it something you do one-on-one? Is it something that can be done in groups? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so I currently do groups, and within my groups, you get one-on-one, but I don't necessarily do ongoing one-on-one. I do have like a half day one-on-one where we kind of create the vision and then clear the blocks and then figure out the implementation. And but the majority of what I do is group work, and then within that, I actually have a lot of individuals. So if, let's say, someone were to sign up, we first meet individually because I really like to connect to hearing about, your particular story and your background and what you're wanting. And we do some individual energy editing work through that. And that's, like over a Zoom session. And then you get into the program and we do kind of group energy edits within the program. Everyone loves it because we do it together. It's on like Zoom webinar. So you're not on camera, because sometimes people, when they're doing them, they're clearing a lifetime of, let's say, fear of, feeling shame. They're clearing a lifetime of that. And so sometimes people cry or things like that. So you don't have to be on camera for that, but you get to be connected through the chat, and everyone shares what comes up with them as they do the edits. And it's very connected in community as well as private. It's kind of a nice setup. And so then we, depending on the program, the current program I'm running, the Deeper Dive Transformation, we meet every week. And we just continue to clear out, the different pieces, particularly this around the heart and around really, just as we were talking about, getting you back home to your heart. And once we do that, then everything changes and kind of the monkey mind stuff disappears and the body feels more free to walk around in the world in a confident way, and all the good stuff happen. But within the programs, I really like to take care and make sure that, everyone's needs are met. So we do some one-on-one check-ins. We do, I'm pretty much available once you're in the program for whatever's needed in order to make that happen. But the majority of it is group work each week.
Well, you certainly have a passion for this. You hear it in your voice, and you hear it in the way that you talk about this, and that's just without a doubt. What is it that fuels that passion? What is it that led you to do what you do? And I know that you you started in as a psychotherapist, but what led you down this path to doing this, and fairly unique in developing these methods for helping folks.
Yeah. And so just so you know, I have not created these methods. I just love them. Michelle Lowbridge created the energy editing method that I use. So just to be clear on that. But in terms of my own drive and passion, as corny as this sounds, I really, truly feel like I was born to do this. And when I was growing up, I watched my mom, who to me was the most amazing woman. She was kind of like a brilliant mind, where she was, she went to Sarah Lawrence and then was getting her PhD at Harvard. And then she really kind of had some pretty severe mental illness, where her subconscious mind and the trauma that was unresolved took over her life. And I watched her kind of deteriorate and not be able to function in our world. So I witnessed that, which was traumatic for me as well. And I was determined to not only not have that happen to me, but also it's like the pain that I felt from, how sad her life was, really created a very strong drive to make sure that I could help as many people as possible not have to go through that, to kind of stabilize themselves and resolve the deeper traumas in the subconscious so that they don't run the show and don't take over, and that, I could support people to live out the life that their best life, right? So that was my original, knowing I was going to be a therapist. I knew that very early on in middle school. And I was, always the person that my friends would come to and all of that classic stuff. And then it really was my dream come true to be a psychotherapist. And I loved my private practice. I loved working with my clients. But there was a little, I started getting my own kind of body work and energy work. And I realized, wow, there's some breakthroughs here that I want to give people. So I actually felt like there was some, you kind of just feel the calling. There's something coming. There's some other modality I'm meant to be doing. And I waited 3 years for that. And experimented with a lot of different stuff. And then I found the energy editing that I was talking about. And I flew to England to train with Michelle Lowbridge, who created energy editing. And I just knew that this was where I was meant to be. I've learned a lot of other modalities, but this one has stuck around for me and is absolutely my passion, just because it's so easy and effective, and people don't need to know their traumas to heal them, which is really cool. And people can even, feel resistant and it still works. So it breaks even the deepest patterns. And that's the Aries in me likes to be effective and efficient and waste no time and get it done. So that's, then I started doing those modalities and then wanted to expand and serve more people. So I moved out of psychotherapy and started running the programs.
Well, I got to say, it's what you're doing is truly benefiting a lot of people, and not just the people you work with, but their families, the people that love them, and so many people around them. And it's just fascinating field, and especially how you are doing this. So how can people find out more about Teresa Kaplan and get involved?
Yeah. So basically, right now, my website is under construction, but there's a really easy way to contact me, and it's just connectwithteresa.com. So you only need my first name, Teresa. It's just simple, connectwithteresa.com. And on that page, you will find my free limiting belief release video, which actually teaches you how to clear your own limiting beliefs in under a minute. So it's a really cool tool to have that you can use on yourself at any time, as well as my programs, my email, and all the good stuff.
Well, I got to say, it's been a pleasure having you, and I got to thank you for coming on and sharing this information. It really is makes a big difference to a lot of people. So thank you for coming on and being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
All right, folks, there you have it. Definitely check out what Teresa Kaplan is doing. Again, the link to connect with her, connectwithteresa.com, ConnectWithTeresa. We'll also have the link right there on the show post. Until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today.